Hi, and welcome to the OT is In, the podcast where we merge the worlds of education and occupational therapy to empower families like yours. I'm Sarah Collins, your host, an occupational therapist and a homeschooling parent. I've experienced occupational therapy by supporting families for over 15 years, but also through seeking out support of my own children, so I'm right here in the trenches with you. Though there is not one way to educate your child, there is a lot to consider when individualizing an education. And the goal of this podcast is to explain some of the why behind what an occupational therapist is thinking so you can apply it to your own family. Especially with my three favorite topics: executive functioning, handwriting, and sensory processing. Each episode will be packed with practical tips, expert interviews, and real-life stories aimed at helping you to create a supportive learning environment for your child. So, grab your headphones and get ready to dive in of the collision of education and occupational therapy. I'm Sarah Collins from Homeschool OT, and I'm thrilled to have you with me on this journey of discovery. Welcome back to the OT is In, where I get to sit down with some innovators in occupational therapy who are changing the way that we think about learning and development. In this episode, I'm joined by fellow occupational therapist Sarah Muldoon, whose creative play-based handwriting books are quickly making waves in both OT and homeschooling communities. Now, she does, during this conversation, share her journey of working in school systems where she noticed the traditional methods were not engaging kids. So she self-published a series of imaginative doodle-driven books that help children to build core handwriting skills through play and through storytelling. And together, we dive deep into these foundational skills behind handwriting. We talk about core strength, visual motor integration, and the magic that happens when kids are having fun and using their imagination. So, whether you're an OT, a parent, an educator, or part of the growing homeschool world, this episode is packed with insights and practical tips for making learning both functional and fun. So get ready to be inspired to bring more play and a sense of joy back into learning. Now, on with the show. Hey, how's the weather where you are? It's cool over here now that fall's coming in. Guys, this is a question that we get asked every day, but for kids, it can be so much more. Weather can spark conversations that build social skills, help kids notice their body's responses through interoception, and even deepen their sensory awareness as they explore sound, light, and movement in nature. That's what makes the National Weather Museum's Weather Kids Experience so special. This interactive platform invites kids to feel, see, and explore weather in a way that's accurate, creative, and fun. It's hands-on learning that opens the door to real connections. And weather doesn't stop at science. It ties into math through patterns and data, into literature and storytelling, art and photography, and even engineering as kids think about how humans interact with each of these elements. The Weather Kids Experience weaves all of this together in one immersive, engaging space. So the next time that you ask, "How's the weather?" remember, it's also a question that can spark wonder, learning, and connection. So visit wxkids.org to look around or purchase their annual membership and use the code HOMESCHOOLOT in all caps for 10% off and experience where weather becomes wonder. Now, on with the show. Hey, and welcome back to the OT is In. My name is Sarah Collins, and I'm here with Sarah Muldoon, another Sarah. Sarah and I met this summer, or I guess it was spring, at the AOTA conference, which is the American Occupational Therapy Association, where she was showing some of her products. And I thought to myself, the homeschool community needs to know about this and kind of the why behind, what she does. So Sarah graciously agreed to come on and have a chat with me. Sarah, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and how you kind of got on with this before we really dive in?
Sure. Hi, I'm Sarah, and I'm an occupational therapist. And I
Hold on, Sarah,
created,
1 second, because you're kind
okay,
of echoing now.
I'm echoing now.
Yeah,
Okay, so maybe I should take them out
yeah.
and
Why don't
we'll try
we
that.
let's try that again? Because
Okay, let's
yeah, the
try it
sound
again.
was better before.
Yeah. Let's
Yeah,
see. Okay,
that's
it's so
much
much
better.
better. I think
Yeah.
that I'm having to reckon that these things are like 7 years old, and
Yeah, and they're they're
yeah,
peacing out.
it's working until now. Okay, all right, I'm ready.
Okay. All right. Well, let me start again then.
Sure.
All right.
Okay.
Hey, and welcome back to the OT is in. My name is Sarah Collins, and I'm actually here with Sarah Muldoon, another Sarah occupational therapist. We met at the American Occupational Therapy Association conference back in April when she was sharing some of her products, and I thought, educators, whether you are homeschoolers or in other areas, really need to know about her products. So she graciously agreed to come on and chat with me. Sarah, before we really dive into kind of what you do, talk to me about how you got to this point.
So I am an occupational therapist and was working in the school system, and often I say like the canary in the mine for OT related problems in the school system is handwriting,
Yeah.
because it's very functional and it involves oculomotor, neurological, fine motor, all these things. So they often get referred to OT when they're having handwriting problems. And so was working with the materials that are out there for handwriting and feeling like the kids were bored and I felt a little bored. And so I wanted something that was more imaginative and play based because, from an OT perspective, we know that we treat from what is the person's most important occupation. And to kids, that's imagination and play. That's like the primary function of their brain. It's how they learn. And
This
so
makes me like so excited.
and I
Yes.
couldn't find anything. I was like, surely someone has made drawings that you make out of a letter so it feels inspiring to make the letter correctly and seal and then attach it to a story and seal it in. And I just couldn't believe that it wasn't out there. And so I started making them on my iPad, which I already had some sort of like hobby experience with graphic design. I've always been a drawer and a
So cool.
doodler. I like doodled my way through grad school to survive it. And using them with the kids, and they were like a hit. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna see what it's like to self-publish a book on Amazon of my drawings. And now it's been over. It was two. I published them in April of 2023, so a little over 2 years, and now I have 15 books.
Wow.
The response was bigger than I thought it would be immediately, and then it just took one TikTok creator to share, a kindergarten teacher to share them, and that really blew my mind. And I realized like there's such a need for this. I'm having so much
Yeah.
fun doing it. I'm just going to keep going. And so here I am.
Here you
um,
are.
yeah.
What a journey, huh?
Yeah, it's been crazy. Yeah.
So you said a few things there that I kind of want to dive into. Like, first of all, saying sort of the canary in the mine, where the occupation that is easily viewable by parents, by educators, by whoever is the actual like formation of letters so that it's functional to be able to communicate our ideas, right? But then you also mentioned all of those underlying skills that go along with that. Can you talk a little bit more about what some of those are?
Sure. So I think like the underlying skills that a lot of people wouldn't see if they didn't have the OT perspective would be, like core strength and wrist strength and hand strength, which visual motor integration, which is the ability to see something and translate it with your motor skills, onto paper. So handwriting is like a perfect example. Copying from the board is visual motor integration. And then that also includes the way your eyes work. And so if you look up at the board and look down at the paper and look up at the board and look down at the paper, like you don't realize on the surface like how much is really going on there. And that can be a skill that can be strengthened and neural connections that can be made that are lagging, sometimes due to like reflex integration and this complex stuff. And then most importantly of all of it, I think, is the playful element, because there's some studies out there. I think probably so many people have heard them at this point that it takes 400 repetitions to create a new skill. But if you do it in play, it takes 20 to 30. And
Boom.
And I mean, right, it's like a really high ROI.
Sarah, you mentioned that play is the primary occupation for children, right? So before we keep going with how play and handwriting can kind of go together, what exactly is play?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think something that people don't think about because it can mean so many things. But I think it's when kids get in that flow state that we all love and know so well, where your time doesn't exist and you're just really enjoying what you're doing. And it's usually related to using your imagination or creating something. Like, even if that's like a massage therapist using like in flow with their work because they're creating something for someone else. So I think when kids really get into their imagination and start telling stories, even though they're not building something with blocks or kicking a ball around, that's still play.
Okay.
And so, for instance, like in my lowercase book, and all this is the format for my letter and number books, is that they learn to make the letter explicitly with formation like so many handwriting books, but then we attach it to a meaning, and so they turn the F into a fox that's sniffing, and so they make the uppercase their lowercase f, and that then becomes like his snout in the air. And you guys can, on my Instagram, there's a lot of examples. And then the little cross on the F is one of the whiskers. And from there, they draw this fox that's sniffing, and it attaches the sound of the letter. And they were so careful to create it because they want to draw the fox sniffing because it feels imaginative and like play. And I
Yeah.
think that's where they're making those new neural connections. And why does the F matter to them? They don't have as much of a connection to it, especially kindergartners. Another aspect of handwriting that's so hard for kids is like getting the letters to sit on the line and line up, and even some adults. And so making the new step of the drawing connect to the last is a skill that we test in a lot of standardized testing, like the bot,
Yeah.
test the acuity of it, their accuracy. And so that's kind of where those skills come in. And so, yeah, like I think it just drawing the picture out of the letter is fun for the kid, but the step by step scanning, oculomotor, and the visual motor integration are the pieces that are like from my OT brain. Like, why is this building the foundational skills for handwriting that not everybody might see
Right.
and be fun for the kid? So, yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned so many things in there. Play, I absolutely love this. You also mentioned the bot, which is a standardized test that occupational therapists often give, especially in the school setting, but also in, some of the private practices, that type of thing. It's where we as OTs can really look at pre and post test measures, right? So we can see like progress as we go. But can you tell parents a little bit about what we're looking for when we're doing those standardized tests?
Yeah, I mean, usually, and I mean, I think like the sort of unglamorous side of it is that we're looking for deficits in skill that qualify them for services so that we can
Mhm.
have a measure. But I think also we're there that who the bot has been developed over time by people with a lot of education and background to be the foundational skills that they need to do functional things, because in the end, like, OT is all about function. But I think like the testing can be kind of dry, but it gives us the measures, and then the OT's job is to create meaningful activities that help them build those skills and not just teach the test. So
Ooh, yes, let's talk about that for a second because I'm not speaking for every homeschool family, but there are many, many who have heard about teaching to the test or have heard about very specific, we're going to, do this explicit teaching because then that way I know that when we give this test later on, it's going to prove your knowledge, right?
yeah,
And when we as occupational therapists, when we're looking at these tests, it's different in that, yes, we can get this pre-test and post-test measure, but we're tying it all to function, right? To
yeah,
can you actually now write? Can you
Hmm.
actually
Hmm.
now catch the ball that you wanted to? Can you
Yeah.
pick up the pennies? Although, really, pennies don't
Hmm.
necessarily matter, but can you pick up the game pieces? All
Right.
these really
Right.
important parts of it. So, if you're using these standardized tests and then you are playing with your children or clients here, especially in ways that is kind of functional in that task, but then also leading towards a more functional outcome, right? Like what goals of doodling, why does that actually help handwriting and then other ways, throughout the day or other activities throughout the day?
Yeah, I think um, well, I think there's also another thing that I always often say is like this like secret agenda behind my books is that yes, they're for handwriting, but we have left art out of literacy in the school system. Like they just separated them. I mean, not all school systems, and some people have some really amazing programs out there, but I I to be able to hold the pencil and create something you want is a form of expression. And I know, and especially in America, like society wants to tell us that we're not valuable if we're not
Mm,
productive. And so expression and things get pushed to the side, but they really add value to your life. And
yeah.
I think they're coming back. And I think that's why people are homeschooling, because they are seeing their kids' expression muted. And so, um, I think I might have like gone off on a side tangent of the question you asked, but I think like just drawing and wanting to create a cute picture and feeling like proud of it seals in the way you hold the pencil and the lines that you're making in a different way than writing the lowercase f over and over again.
Hey, it's Sarah, popping in for a quick minute to share a resource that I am genuinely excited about: the FORM or FORM curriculum from Form Education. If you're looking for a biblically based health and PE curriculum that supports your child's whole development, this is it. FORM gives you everything you need in one place. There's animated videos, devotional and teaching guides, movement videos, and auto-graded assessments, all designed to help your kids grow, not just physically, but in their faith and their self-awareness as well. It can be used within the home or as part of a co-op. Guys, I'm the gym teacher for our co-op this year for 3rd and 4th graders, and I can't wait to get started because I know I'll be providing really great lessons, and it's going to help to give them fitness, nourishment, information on rest, and it's all designed not just for right now, but what will plant seeds for a lifetime. And it supports the developmental principles that we talk about all the time here on the OT is In, like interoception, so understanding what's going on inside the body, motor planning, and grasping the why behind movement, not just the what. It's thoughtful, therapeutic, and it's rooted in truth. Getting started is easy, guys. Get instant access to preview the materials, review what's inside, and then you can purchase with confidence. We only get so much time with our kids, and Form helps make every moment count. So learn more at formeducation.org. Now, back to the episode. Welcome back. So here we are, the Sarahs here, chatting about the occupation of play and also about the occupation of writing and how they both are really closely intertwined. Sarah, you did mention earlier on about how there are a lot of underlying skills, right, that go along with handwriting. And one of them is actually spacing, right? So we have
Yeah.
to be able to write, with the letter, let's say the word fun, we have to be able to write the F, the U, the N, be kind of on the line, and also have the correct spacing between each letter so that it's legible.
Hmm.
So, if that's something that parents or students, right, are struggling with that spacing, why would that be? And what are some things that we can do about it?
Yeah, so I often, I don't know if you experienced this if you were in school OT, that you would get these kids who were a little older and could form their letters decently,
Mhm.
but they cram them together on a sentence and they like can't and and they will like give you the stick to put between the letters, and that's so arduous, and it really slows down the flow that I feel like
Yes.
is
Or
important to
like
actually
put your
use
pinky
skills.
between each one.
Yes.
Right.
And so and in the book, I, usually write a little forward about what the book's about and how to use it. And it's frustrating because you're like, put the space, and then they don't do it. And it's not that they're not listening to you. You're asking them to attend to nothing. They can't
Hmm.
process it. It's just a blank space. It doesn't mean anything to them. And so another OT thing that's really that you learn hopefully in OT school and sometimes when you're practicing is that you take a task and you break it down and make it you scaffold it by making it
Right.
easier and then slowly taking away the support so they can do it independently. And so this spacing book that I made is for like the doodles are a little harder, but they're for like that third and fourth grader that got handwriting, but they just can't space their letters. And so um, they're drawing things on a line and they're scanning up and down, which I think is part of the spacing. It's the oculomotor skipping that gets in the
Yeah.
way. So they're drawing like these little aliens, but they'll draw like three aliens and then a space and then an alien and then a space. So the boring part is kind of out of it. And then there's some sentence copy that has like a little UFO between every letter. And then there's the first letter of each word is traceable. And there's a lot of talk about the book, like make sure to leave space between your letters, and the spaces are really exaggerated. So maybe they can sort of start to see them for what they are. And then I think like it might shift their paradigm a little bit if they just have a whole book about spacing.
Right.
Like they're like, it's like, oh, like and now they have a story to attach it to, and because the whole book is themed on space. So
I
it's like
love that.
aliens and astronauts and
So
things like
you're
that.
using story in itself, like you're talking about space, right? So,
Mhm.
and then actually kind of abstractly, this is also
Mhm.
the space that you're taking between your letters. Are you finding that kids learn through that story as well as through the play?
I definitely think so. So all of the sentences where they're scaffolded are in groups of three, and they do tell a story. Like one of them is, "Why do we always see cows being abducted by aliens? Like, why is that a thing?" And the story behind it is that this guy was in the 1800s in something called a liars club, where you tried to get people to believe outlandish things. And he made this story that his cow got abducted by an alien, and the legend just persisted. And so now, I know, so funny. That, and so each sentence gets a little bit, takes away one of those supports to put the space between their letters, but then they're learning as they go.
So
Nice
it's
thing.
more about the process than it is about the actual product at that point.
Yes. And the doodle too, like I have had some kids make like a dinosaur, like I have a baby dino that a lowercase b that turns into a baby dino, and it is a hot mess. Like this dinosaur is like melting, and they're so proud of it. And you engage them, it doesn't matter. And if they skip a step, it doesn't matter. Like it's the engagement that you're looking for.
Yeah.
It's the play brain that you're trying to light up so that they can seal in these letters in a state in like an energy state really that feels fun and good to them, and then they associate learning with fun, and it just makes it a better experience for everyone. So
Agree. And I also think, if they are coming up with, let's take that dinosaur or whatever, and then they're using that within their own story, that's such a big piece of writing anyway. That's us being authors. That's us
yeah.
telling the story of it's the composition, of what is this dinosaur even doing. And so
Well,
now you're
I
putting
love
together
that
so many
because one of my
pieces.
favorite things a kid ever did was she decided that her baby dinosaur was going to be eating dinner, and she gave him like a big T-bone steak.
That's
And so
so
then she
great.
like drew a table and a steak to go with the
Right.
baby dino. And that's just more time of holding a pencil,
Right.
making lines that are deliberate and getting those muscles built. And so all of it, I think that the more we can just like be playing while we're teaching and trust that the skills will come, like the better we're going to do.
Oh, Sarah, thank you so much for being here. Can you tell everyone how they can find you and also where they can find your books?
Sure. Well, I'm on Instagram and like I'm figuring out TikTok as an older millennial.
Yeah,
So
same.
yeah. And then I have a website. And I self-published on Amazon, which has been amazing. And a lot of my books are on there, but I'm starting to make the shift to printing them myself and on my website. And I'm so excited because they will open and lay flat, and the paper is
Oh,
super thick, the
beautiful.
markers won't bleed through, and the cost is the same. So very, very soon, like within the month, I'll have my first 3 books on my website. And those are my newest ones that I have taken all the feedback and experience, and they're the best ones yet. So I'm really excited
Love
about
that.
them. And they'll be available for business to business orders too. And I'm starting to get some of those, which is really exciting.
Thanks for tuning into The OT is In. If today's episode got you thinking about some of the underlying skills in handwriting, whether it's how your child holds a pencil, how they sit at the table, or how they move through their day, I've got a resource just for you. You can now download the Motor and Handwriting Assessment at homeschoolot.com. It's a quick and easy tool to help you figure out where your child is thriving and where they might need a little support. So just head to homeschoolot.com/shop to grab your copy or find a link in the show notes. And as always, thanks for letting me be a part of your homeschool journey. Remember, the OT is always in, and I am so glad that you are here.